Sige, good afternoon class. Can you hear me? Can you hear me class? Loud and clear? Ha? So, good afternoon. No, as I have message you, nag-chat na ako. So, for today, we'll try to finish our topic 2, no? As fast as that, but as clearly as we can. But and also with that, I will try to start topic number 3, right away, because we'll only be having one session tomorrow, and after tomorrow it will be our prelim exam the following week. So we need to finish at least the first 4 topics on globalization. So in order for us to have a deeper understanding on the subject matter, but though we will do it as fast as we can, so I already sent you the advanced copy of our lecture so you can read it, and hopefully upon reading it and on this discussion we can just focus on the main points, but we will go to it. We will go through the different slides so for you to understand it fully, but we will go to it. I hope more on the main points, and hoping ako na you can ask questions directly so we can clarify your concern directly. But after tomorrow, in order for the class to have a common understanding before the prelims, I will give you a synthesis of the first 4 topics so you can answer the prelim exam clearly or thoroughly. So medyo mabilis tayo kasi nga medyo halos apat na session o 3 session tayo hindi natuloy. Quezon City Day, National Heroes Day, then the following day walang klase ng 26. Buti nga nakapag-special online tayo by Google Meet, wala pa tayo rin klase noon. So we will need to get the discussion on double time para lang makahabol tayo. But don't worry, gagawin naman natin to as clearly as possible. Then I will give you pointers and synthesis on the first 4 topics para makaguide sa inyo exam. Okay? So today we will go through with the topic of our structures, structures of the globalization, and natigil tayo sa about multinational, transnational, the difference between the multinational and transnational companies, the role of the multinationals in globalization, what do they promise, and dito tayo nagtapos sa the modern world system, which according to Immanuel Wallerstein noong 1974, but hindi lang naman noong 1974, as early as the 1900, mga 1800s, 1890s, dinedeclare na ng mga scholars na ang world system na ay nagsisimula na sa isang capitalist system, And when we talk about a capitalist system, di ba? It is a system of doing business. Alam niyo naman ang kapitalista, siguro, hindi na tayo. Pag nagkakapitalista ka, nagnenegosyo ka, di ba? Namumuhunan ka, nagtatayo ka ng negosyo, at yung negosyo mo, either you are selling goods or services, di ba? Nagbibigay ka ng produkto na binibili ng tao o binabayaran ka ng tao from that product, or you are being paid or getting your services for a fee. That's how capitalism works, di ba? And you are doing business by delivering goods and services. And in the advent of globalization, or in the modern world of capitalist system, there are no more boundaries. There are flexible structures, and there are new rules. Because in a capitalist world system, the whole world is now becoming the whole production line, the whole trading system, and the whole market system. Yung isang mundo, no? The whole world is now a big production line, a big trading partners, and a big market for all the goods and services being produced by different big and even medium companies, no? So with this system, it's pulling people, no? The people, the government or the states or the whole society towards a worldwide economic transaction from production, trade, and market. Can you see that? No? The whole world now is on the whole production system, the whole trading system, and the whole market. No? Buong mundo na ang palengke. The whole world is now the market. Before, in the advent of small capitalism in the early 1800s, the market only consists of different places, different communities. But today, in the modern world, the market is already the whole world. The whole world is the whole market. And this creates a division of labor, di ba? Who are the bosses and who are doing what and who are supplying what. Di ba? Kasi in a production system, in a production of goods and services, di ba, there's always what? Di ba? Three elements, di ba? There is always the raw materials, there is, di ba, the machines or the means of production, the tools to use the product to produce or to give services, and third, the working people, yung mga taong nagtatrabaho. And this combination of raw materials, means of production, and the people who are working is the whole system of production, trading, and market of the whole capitalist system. And what is the main agenda on that? Ito yung iniwanan kong question before mag-time. What is the main agenda when you're conducting a business? Can someone type the answer? What is the main agenda if you're trying to conduct business? Profit. Yan, sabi ni Pete. Yes, kasi kailangan mong tumubo. Kasi kung hindi ka tutubo, wag ka nang magnegosyo. Yun yung tinatawag nilang nalulugi ka lang, hindi dahil nalulugi ka, kung hindi yung capital mo ay hindi nagpo-produce ng bagong capital. And that's what profit is. Di ba? Para pag profit, if you will look into it as a simple material, the profit is if you invest 100 pesos and it returns to you at 200 pesos, you will say na I already got a profit of another 100 pesos. In simple term, that is correct. But in an economic sense, diba, the profit is your capital gives return to you for another set of capital which you can also invest again to gain more profit or to gain more capital. Okay, so that's how a capitalist system works in a simple explanation. But of course, it is very, very complex economic system. And the whole world, with that note, if the whole world is now becoming the whole production, the whole trading, and the whole market, and there is already a free movement, malaya, free movement of capital, investment, trade, and market, the whole world is a capitalist system, and the whole world is being run as business, and big corporations are profiting from the whole world market. And that's how what we say that it creates different divisions of labor. And when you talk about the divisions of labor, diba, even the world now is also being divided into three. Diba? Ito yun. Pag sinabi kasi nating division of labor, basically the world is being divided. No? Nagkakaroon na din, no, ng hatian o division of the world. Where the first group is what they call in our book is the core, or I would say it is the very, very rich countries, diba? Or the first world countries, wherein they are the most powerful and wealthy countries in the world system. characterized by high level of technology, financial resources, and economic influence. Diba? These core regions or the first world countries, as more colloquially called upon, is sila yung mas mayayaman, sila yung may malaking pera, di ba? They have the more advanced technologies, di ba? They have more capital and they have more influence, di ba? In crafting, conducting, and influencing economic policies in the whole world. That is the core of what we call the first world countries. While the semi-periphery group or regions, or maybe we can call that the second world countries, there lies between the core and the periphery. Let's go again immediately to the periphery, because the periphery or the third world countries, diba, are areas that lack strong central government and are controlled by other states. And when you talk about controlled by other states, hindi naman sila kolonyal o merong foreign forces that are stationed in their countries, but they are controlled more on the economic sense. No? While the semi-peripheral countries or the peripheral region, the second world countries, di ba? They are either being exploited or being exploited, pero kasi sila yung para bang nagko-cross across, nagki-criss-cross across the first world and the third world. So nagagamit sila, but at the same time they can also exploit the third world countries. But sa hatian ng mundo, in the division of the world, di ba? The peripheral countries or the third world countries are the one being exploited and being controlled by other states, not on the political sense, but on the economic policies. It is the core or the first world countries who are dictating the economic policies, while the semi-peripheral countries or regions are the one affected, which they can also, di ba, also pass through those policies to the third world countries, which is the periphery region. So that is how the world is being divided by now, di ba? By this called the world is now being a very, very big production system. Usually, class, the peripheral regions are the one where they get the raw materials. So kaya that's why we are saying that they are the one being exploited, because they are the one, diba, where their natural resources or the raw materials are being taken by the semi-periphery or the core countries, and there is where they produce goods, and eventually, diba, the end product or the products will be also sent back or sell back to the same countries where they get the raw materials. To give you an example on that, there is a factory in Cavite, here in Cavite, in the Philippines, where they produce or manufacture what you call the wire harness. Wire harness means all the electrical wirings of all Japanese brand cars. It is being manufactured here and using, of course, our raw materials of wires, etc., etc. And once the wire harness is finished manufactured here, it will be sent back to Japan, where they will assemble the cars, and now comes Toyota will be sent back here, and it will be sold here, all the Toyota cars. But nobody knows, or only a few knows, that all the parts of Toyota, especially the wiring parts, are all manufactured here in the Philippines. So in this diagram of core and periphery and semi-periphery, this is how this globalization or the whole capitalist world system now, diba, created different levels of regions. No? The core are the one leading because they are the most powerful. The semi-peripheral regions, or what we call the second world regions, they lies between two extremes, no? The first world and the third world. They can be exploited, but at the same time, they are also exploiting. They can also exploit the second, the third world nations, while the peripheral countries, yeah, is why it is being exploited or being controlled by either the semi-peripheral regions or the core regions, because this is where almost all of the natural resources or the raw materials are being taken, diba, and being manufactured in the core regions, and we will sell back again as finished product in the peripheral regions. So that's how globalization interact or has interrelation with the core, semi-periphery, and the peripheral region. And this is what we call it created, no? Division of labor. Or basically, it is not just a division of labor, but it created a different kind of world. Simply saying, it is the world of the rich and the world of the poor. Okay? So, how come this is happening? No? And for us to understand it further, then you can have your own readings on the subject matter, because these are the policies associated by globalization. Again, class, I will go back to the basic definition of globalization. It is the world is being treated as a whole production, trading, and market, di ba? It is a pre-trade, di ba? Pre-flow of capital, labor, and goods and services. And in order for the whole world to be transformed into a one single market, these are the three different policies that are being implemented as a policy for globalization to have a free world market. Number one is liberalization. I think I guess you can always hear this in the discussion when it comes to economics, or when it comes to what you call that, in some activist actions. No? You can always hear this liberalization, deregulation, and privatization. But in order to understand that, yes, liberalization, a policy of liberalization being applied to by different states. Excuse me for a while, ha? Okay, sorry for that, class. Meron lang emergency tumawag sa akin. So, when you talk about the different policies associated with globalization, the fundamental definition of these are one, liberalization, because liberalization means the free flow of goods and capital, removing trade barriers among nations. Removal of tariff or taxes, custom duties. When you talk about tariff, you are removing. When you talk about tariff, it is more on taxes and custom duties, and regulation in the flow of foreign capital. Liberalization is a practice of lowering. Sometimes it is just simple as lowering taxes of foreign goods, or sometimes removing. To the maximum, it removes the entry of capital, or it removes taxes tariffs or custom duties of the capital being invested on one country. So for some businesses to have a pre-investment, no, or a free malaya, no, it is not free or libre. Free means malaya or freedom. To have a freedom in the investment, no, one of the policies of globalization is they oblige or encourage states or government to remove tariff or strict regulations on the flow of goods, services, and even capital to your countries. And we call that liberalization. Another thing is the regulation. It is the removal of government interference in the prices of goods and let the market decide. Meaning, government are encouraged to deregulate prices. Meaning, do not fix price, do not what do you call that, dictate price, but let the market dictate the price. So this is the basic principle of law of supply and demand. Let the market dictates the price. That is the regulation. Government should not have a price control. And third is a privatization. This is let the private sector manage government businesses and the market. This is the policy that in order to have a free trade, diba, government should not intervene in the market forces. Do not put some regulations, do not put some laws that will prevent the free flow of competitions of different markets. So this is the three basic policies that is being imposed by globalization, liberalization, deregulation, and privatization in order for the market to be free, no? In order to have a freedom of flow of trade, capital, goods, and services. Siguro, class, one of the concrete, maybe class, you can see one of the practices being done here in our country is a very rampant policy of privatization, no? Where you can notice that our water supply, diba, our roads, our expressway, which are being used to transport goods and services, are now all being privatized, which is before it is government owned, but due to the insistence of the policies of globalization, it is being privatized. Okay? The regulation, of course, you can notice that even if the prices are going very, very high, you seldom see or notice that government are having a price control. They're just letting the market dictate the prices. And liberalization, yeah, this is, you can see, diba, many foreign products can enter our countries without big, sometimes, yes, there are tariff, but not so big tariff for them to compete locally. So that's how you understand liberalization, deregulation, and privatization. But the question now, if you want to analyze this deeper, why is it, no, that Trump, no, the U.S. President Donald Trump is imposing strict, no, tariff, very high tariff of foreign products entering U.S. Because he is trying to protect his own, diba, product too. Protection towards the free flow of goods, capital, and services. So you can see Trump is practicing an anti-globalization policies, and maybe Trump is shifting to a more protectionist policy than globalization. But the other side of it, he is imposing a very strict tariff and taxes to other foreign goods, but he is now insisting naman of having US products having access to world market. So there is really an imbalance between the core, as you can see, the core, the semi-periphery, and the peripheral region. If you have already listened to the news, di ba? The Philippines was given a 20% 20% tariff no of goods that will enter the United States market, but many United States products can enter the Philippine market free of tariff. That's how inequality develops also in this globalized world. Okay? So, as you can see also, the global economy or the globalization is more of a corporate globalization. No? The rules being undertaken by different states, many favors, diba, the rules of the corporations. Many of the rules under globalization is a rule on economy, di ba? A rule on free trade or a rule of competition among businesses. As the data shows, in the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, there are 737 corporations that controls 80% of the world economy. Okay? 147 of them are in control of 40%. Meaning, big multinationals and transnational companies or corporations controls the world policies when it comes to trade and, di ba, and movement of goods and services. So globalization basically is business or global corporate globalization. So later on we will discuss the role of the states, but basically most of the rules, most of the laws being implemented by different nations or states adapts to the rules and regulations of different big multinationals or transnational corporations. As you can also see in some data, there are more, di ba, corporate businesses, stations around the world in different countries than embassies or diplomatic offices. Di ba? It only shows that there are some nations that do not have embassies or political offices, but they have different branch offices on that countries. For example, we have no diplomatic or embassy in Algeria. That is a good example of it. In Northern Africa, if you want to get a visa, if you want to go to Algeria, diba? You have to go to Malaysia to apply for a visa because we do not have our embassy in Algeria. But there are San Miguel or other Philippine multinational products stationed in Algeria. So that's how, class, you can see that the whole world basically is more of a corporate globalization than a political globalization. Okay? So, a brief history, how does it comes to be? A brief history of the global market integration in the modern times. Because after the World War II, in the mid-1940s, there was a conference that what you call the Brentwood conference or system, wherein it establishes the International Monetary Fund or the IMF and the World Bank that lay grounds for the integration of global economy. It is the offshoot of the GATT, the General Agreements of Tariff and Trades, because the purpose of the IMF World Bank, we will go to that in our lecture number 4 or 3 and 4, because after the World War, diba, you can only imagine that many countries, especially the third world countries, was devastated by war. And in order for these countries to develop or to have a fresh start after the war, diba? They need capital, money, diba? To start their own economy to diba? To stand. No? So with the establishment of the IMF and the World Bank, diba? There comes the different loans, no? Being granted to the third world countries so that they can have their own capital after the war, diba? To start all over again. But these loans granted by the IMF World Bank, which is funds coming from big nations or rich nations, no? Especially the United States that was not devastated by the war, diba? They impose some conditions. And that conditions, what I'm saying is the conditions of a corporate globalization. Anyway, it all started in there. Then in the 1980s and the 1990s, the rise of the neoliberalism and technological advancement spurred further globalization. Yan, with the policies of the regulation, privatization, and liberalization, diba, gives birth to a regulatory body, which is the World Trade Organization. So they now craft those three policies, di ba? In order for have a free flow of trade and businesses, nations should adopt a regularization, a liberalization, a deregulation, and a privatization policy in their own countries. Okay, that it proliferates or it gave rise to in the 1980s and in the 1990s. Now comes the 21st century, not just the free flow of capital, not just the free flow of goods and services, there comes also the technology advancement which accelerated, no? Which facilitate more, no? The free flow of trade and industry. Not just internet and digital, but also modernization of the means to transport. Diba? Before, diba, it will take us some time to transfer funds or money or capital from one bank to another. Now, you can just do it in the tip of your finger by using computers or even in our simple trade, using GCash, di ba? Simple na nasa ating mga cellphone. You can easily transfer finance or capital or payment to the products and services. And also with the development of modern transportation, yeah, goods and services can reach a certain place or countries on time, or at least hindi naman matagal, no? Even by ship also travels faster now than before, and now not just ship, they're using cargo planes, di ba? So they can have a real-time transport of goods and services. That's how it is right now in the 21st century. Okay? Now, what are the benefits of this global economic integration? So, in our previous discussion, they are saying that globalization promises progress. Yes, so how will it happen? How will progress will happen? No, in globalization. And again, class, just always try to remember that globalization is the free flow of business, capital, investment, goods and services, and the whole world now is becoming, diba, the whole production line, the whole trading system, and the whole market. That is the key in understanding globalization. But in order to regulate this relationship of free world, there is an existing policy of liberalization, deregulation, and privatization, which each and every country should adapt. And with this adaptation, diba, it created different levels of region. That is what you call the core, the semi-periphery, and the periphery. The first world, the second world, and the third world, in simple terms. But overall, even if that is happening right now, it still promises growth or progress. How? Number one, economic growth, because globalization has contributed to increased trade investment, leading to economic growth and development in many parts of the world. Yes, it cannot be debunked. No? Even if it's in a very, very slow manner, diba? Economic growth is, diba, affecting or being what do you call that, felt, diba, in each and every nation. Why? Because number two, diba, if you have globalization, diba, there is an access, wider access to different goods, services, diba? And consumers' choice, diba, coming from different countries. And third, of course, kahit naman mabagal ang pag-unlad, you can see technological advancement also. Yeah, even here in the Philippines, there is the what you call internet, yeah, is what you call messenger, no? Everybody can have access to that, and everybody can have information, diba? Even in other countries and even in your research, most informations are also are now available in the internet. Before, diba, bibili ka pa ng mga books, ang kapal ng encyclopedia, no? You will read page by page now. No more encyclopedia. All the informations are available in the internet. But it's up to you to verify the sources and to verify if the information that you're getting is the right or truthful information, because there is really a free access of information. You cannot, it is very hard to distinguish what is right and what is wrong information. But again, globalization develops economic growth through different investments and modern means of production. You can have access to better goods and services, and you can have now technological advancement. Okay? So, but even on that promise of progress, there are also some challenges, or we can call that maybe hindrances, no, in the advancement. And I think globalization will still continue to advance faster, no, more complex, no, in the coming years. And hopefully it will still continue its promises of progress, like what we have said, economic growth, access to goods and services, and technological advancement. But there are some hindrances or challenges facing in the application of globalization in the past decades. One is globalization can lead to monopoly. It happens, diba, na I have already discussed this with you. In the First World War, before the globalization was conceptualized, there was already a called imperialism. Lenin, the great Lenin, the leader of the Russian Revolution, termed that word imperialism, wherein he says that a pre-competition of capital can lead to monopoly capital. And if there is a competition in the market, Lenin said there can be a war for control of the market. And that was in the 1940s when Lenin articulated that theory. But now, we can also see, but not in a violent way, but I guess some things are turning violent, like the war in Ukraine and some war in the African continent, because globalization can lead to monopoly. Because when there is a pre-competition, di ba? Anong mangyayari, class? What will happen if there is a pre-competition? It is a nature of capitalism to have a pre-competition, but it is also on that very nature of pre-competition that breeds monopoly. Because in a pre-competition, one business will fall while the other business will rise. Or maybe a group of business will fall while another group of business will rise. And that will give rise to monopoly. From a very, very pre-competition, because other cannot compete with the bigger one, the smaller one or the less advanced one will fall, and the bigger one and the more advanced one will dominate the market, and that will give birth to monopoly business or monopoly capitalism. Number 2, globalization can lead to job losses. Yes, while it encourages pre-competition, when it comes to monopoly, well, when some businesses are being closed due to steep competition, that will cause also job losses, and some will just relocate to other countries where there is a cheap labor being offered to them, because there is also a competition between different countries to attract foreign investment. Diba? Those who will be affected by the migration of capital will have to suffer loss of jobs. Yeah? So parang dito sa Pilipinas, many countries already pulled out their companies here and transferred and relocate their businesses in Vietnam or in China. So most of our businesses here closed down, and it comes to the closure of our industry and created a job loss. And the most prominent of that class, if you can read more about it, is our textile industry. Bagsak na, no? Or it is our textile industry already collapsed. So we no longer have a textile industry in the Philippines. What we have is all ready-to-wear garments, which is being imported from different parts of the world. As you can notice, even branded clothes are manufactured in Bangladesh, made from Bangladesh, made in China, mostly made in Vietnam, but you can seldom see, diba, clothings made in the Philippines. If you can still remember Crispa t-shirt, no? Very, very old na yan. Maybe your parents can still remember that. That is a very, very famous brand of t-shirt in the Philippines. It is now already closed. Okay, third, globalization can contribute to environment degradation. How? Because in a business, when it is proliferating and it is in need or it is in demand to have more production, it equals to more needs for raw materials. Diba? And when it comes to demand for more raw materials, diba, it boils down to getting, diba, our natural resources. So in order to have more raw materials, you will resort to, diba, getting or exploiting or exploitation of the natural resources. Okay, so it contributes to environment degrading, especially mining. Diba? In order to produce more energy, diba? So they need to fund energy generation usually, but it is being removed right now, the coal-powered power plant. So they need to excavate more coal, diba, to power the power generation plant. But now they are now also looking into other climate-friendly power generation, which is wind, solar, and hydro. But before, in order to produce more needs, di ba? They also need to, di ba? To exploit or to get more natural resources. So that's how globalization can contribute to environmental degradation. Okay? So globalization can lead to a homogenization of culture. Yes, as dominant cultures and products became more widespread, basically it undermines local tradition. O nawawala na, di ba? Nawawala, or our tradition are being turned into a modern tradition which is influenced by other culture. Diba? Napapansin nyo rin naman yan, class, ha? We are more on a, what? Sometimes, even the way we dress, ano tawag nyo dyan? You call that Korean what? Diba? May Korean model. Yeah, we sometimes tends to imitate, di ba? Korean model or foreign models in the way we have our attire. It is not that bad, but we just call it leads to the homogenization of culture. One culture can dominate the other because of the free flow of this trade, di ba? Businesses and people and communications, information. And last, and very equally important, the result of it all is the unequal development of economies. Rich countries, which is the core, which we have talked a while ago, dominates the economic, political, and therefore the policies existing in the whole world. You can remember, class, di ba, when I started the course, di ba, I quote that those who controls the economy controls the politics. And it's also true in globalization. So those who controls the production, the trade, and the market also controls the economy, political, and also the policies existing around the world. And who are they? They are the core or the first world countries. Okay? So, with that, a data I like to show you, but this is very old data of 2014 report of Oxfam. There is also an increasing world inequality. There are about 85 richest people who own the same wealth as the 3.5 billion poorest people. So, I guess that's how it is the challenges being faced by globalization, where the rich are getting richer and the poor sometimes remains poor. So these are the challenges that we need to face also in dealing with globalization and crafting a policy towards a better future. Okay? So, in a nutshell, so what does globalization doing to us? So, the fundamental question is, really, can globalization really advance the development of countries, or it is more of the interest of the rich and big businesses? So it's up to you to evaluate and to study further on the matter. Okay? So, that's all, class, for our topic number 2. Okay, so any questions on the structures of globalization? So we just talk about the different structures, the multinational corporations, what are the roles, the different intergovernmental, supranational organization, the international non-government organization, diba? The multinationals and the transnational corporations, each and every one of them plays a vital role in shaping, diba, this global economy, which in simple term, turning the whole world into one single production line, one single trading system and one single market system. So that's how globalization really works. Okay? Oh, any questions, class? Okay. Medyo binibilisan ko lang kasi medyo nagra-rush tayo. So, we'll just have a 5 minutes break. Let's have a 5 minutes break. It's already 3:26. Let's get back around 3:30 or 3:35 and let's start our topic number 3. Okay, so then we will continue it tomorrow and hopefully we can start with topic number 4 tomorrow. Okay? So, buksan ko lang yung aking lecture number 3. Yan. Na-post ko naman ito kanina sa inyo, no? So, then let's discuss this a little bit. Then, bukas dire-diretso tayo hanggang topic number 4. Then, don't worry class, I will discuss this fast and getting into the salient points of each and every slides. Then, sige, I will give you a synthesis and a summary and a pointers para sa ating preliminary exam. Okay, so let's have a few minutes break. Let's be back by 3:30. Okay? Okay, sige, CR break muna kayo. next 30 minutes. Kung anong abuti natin. Then we will continue this tomorrow, and hopefully we can start topic number 4 and we can finish the whole topic tomorrow, no? In 1.5 hours. So medyo bear with me o bear with us, no? Makinig, kaya nga binigay ko na yung kopya in advance kasi we need to cram konti ng discussion, but we will try to discuss each and every topic as clearly as possible, ha? Kaya nga, class, sana basahin, then bukas, no? Mas maganda we can have the discussion in a question and answer format, no? Para mas direct to the point ang mga explanations, okay? So, for our lesson 3, no? Kasi lesson 1 and 2, we have discussed the basic concept of how to understand what globalization is all about. Again, lagi kong paulit-ulit kong sinasabi sa inyo, keep on repeating this, diba? Globalization is the free flow of, diba, capital, trade, and market, thereby transforming the whole world into a single production system, single trading system, and a single market. Diba? And on that relationship of the modern world, which is capitalist by nature, because it is more of a business relationship, and when you talk about business relationship, it focuses mainly on, diba, how to get profitable. And when you talk about profitable, diba, it develops competition, but that competition promises progress. But on that progress also, it also has some challenges or hindrances. And who are operating this global system, we have some such different organizations or structures, diba? So that's how you will understand globalization. May nagpapatakbo, or there is something or a structures running and regulating this system of free trade, diba? Free market and free, we call that, flow of capital, people, etc. But there is still a regulation, there is still a structure regulating this movement, but who has the advantage in this regulation, it is what we call the core, which is the dominant, the semi-periphery, and the peripheral nations or regions, because this globalized world, while it tends to make the world as one, it also divides the world into different regions, or that's what they call the division of labor. May mga kanya-kanyang papel ang bawat region. Okay? So now, let's dive deeper into how does it becomes like that, and let's dive deeper into the roles and functions of different institutions related to globalization. Okay? So this is our lesson number 3. So, who are the one financing or managing, di ba? When it comes to the free flow of capital, these are what you call the international financing institutions. Okay? So, when you talk about financial institutions, this is where most of the money is coming from. And these are the institutions that lends money to different sections, to different nations, di ba? In order to what you call develops their own nations or their own economy, which is business-based. Okay, so number 1 there is the IMF. So if you are familiar with IMF, you can always hear that. The International Monetary Fund, it was established, di ba, to provide financial assistance to countries in needs It promotes international monetary cooperation, and it plays a crucial role in crisis management and financial policy advice. Dito nang gagaling. This is where most of the loans are being processed by loans of different nations. But you will also ask, where does the money of the IMF comes from? It comes from the contributions or the capital from those who can give capital to the IMF. So mainly it comes from big countries or big rich countries. Number one dyan ang United States. So they dominate the capital in the IMF, so therefore they dominate the policy making in the IMF. And those who has many capital invested in the IMF, of course, makes very what we call that critical influence in the policies implemented by the IMF towards those countries who are applying for loans, diba, to them. An example of the strict policies of the IMF is if you will take a loan or if you will ask for a loan in the IMF, of course, the very strict policy is how can you be able to pay those loans, and number two, how much is the interest of each and every loan. Because as you know, class, even in a simple trade where if you will apply for a loan, you will not just pay for the principal. No? For example, if you will take a loan of 100 pesos on a certain money lending agency, you will not be paying 100 pesos for the same loan. Maybe you will pay 110 pesos with a 10 pesos interest, because that's how a loan company works, and that's how also an IMF works. Diba? You loan and you will pay the loan with corresponding interest, and that is how IMF survives. No? You pay with the loan, with an interest, and in order for you to be able to pay, they are dictating a certain percentage of your gross domestic income or gross domestic product, which we have already discussed last meeting. A certain percentage of your growth should be channeled to your loan payment. If I am not mistaken, in the Philippines, one of the conditions for every IMF loan, we need to earmark 40% of our GDP for loan payment. That's how strict is the policy of the IMF, and that's how they gain more power in controlling the world financial system. Okay? Next is the World Bank. The same as the IMF, the World Bank, just like any other bank, functions as a bank where businesses and other nations can also make loans in supporting their country's development, like infrastructure and poverty reduction, climate change, etc. Whatever policies that your country wants to implement for your quote-unquote development, if you have having problem with your own capital, you can loan capital to the World Bank. So it is almost the same as the International Monetary Fund, and there are also member businesses, contributors to the World Bank. It functions as the same as the IMF. So you can see that the IMF and the World Bank almost their names are interconnected with each other. Okay? Then comes the World Trade Organization. This was created in the early 1990s, as the World Trade Organization regulates international trade through certain agreements, no? But that agreements, they say, promotes fair competition, but you can see it reduces trade barriers. As we have discussed a while ago, because one of the policies of globalization in a globalized world, there should always be a liberalization, removing trade barriers. So one aspect of it is the removal of tariffs, tariffs on trades. So it was formulated by the World Trade Organization, but they say that the World Trade Organization tries to resolve. This is the body that resolves trade disputes, and it will ensure level of playing fields for different businesses globally. So basically, the World Trade Organizations are the body in regulating different trades, di ba? In a world trade, di ba? Di ba? Under globalization. So ito yung nagre-regulate ng mga policies, and if you have some violations of the policies, or if a country feels that a certain countries violated, di ba, your agreement with them, you will forward your case to the World Trade Organization, which it will litigate and will have its decision, di ba, on the matter. Okay, so mainly IMF, World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, di ba, regulates the business aspect of globalization. Okay, so some attributes, or we have already discussed this, the characteristics of multinational corporations in the global economy. Di ba? Ito na kanina, sabi natin yung mga hindrances, di ba? It develops cheap labor, because one of the advantage of global corporation, di ba, it can operate in different parts of the world. It can compete with investment, and it can try to invest in different parts of the world, and those parts can offer cheap labor. Kumbaga parang dito ka na sa amin, di ba? Usually, third world countries are selling, di ba, their cheap labor for investment. And what that does give effect to, di ba? If they have cheap labor, of course they will invest more on that country. And with the cheap labor policy, anong result, class? What's the result of a cheap labor policy even you have a big investment in your country? Anong resulta ng cheap labor policy? Can someone type it out? Why is it a attributes or character of a multinational corporation? Because as you said, di ba, multinational corporation can invest in any national, or in any countries. So sometimes countries, in order to attract investment, they're offering a cheap labor. And that cheap labor, di ba, nadadalahin, napupuntahan ng big investor, contributes to their what? Bigger what? Ha, class? Anong interrelation ng cheap labor and investment? Diba? Bigger what? Alam, maintindihan ninyo yun. Kasi parang lagi kasi nagko-compete. No? We always compete, at you always say that, you can always hear that, no? In the news, that we have a very cheap labor here in the Philippines, or sometimes they're using the Philippines as a very, very hub and expensive labor. Kaya kita nyo naman, pinag-aawayan dito yung minimum wage, dahil yung iba nga mataas pa daw ang ating labor, because cheap labor, yes, really attracts more investment, because cheap labor equals big profit. Diba? Mas mababang sweldo, mas malaki ang kita nila. Okay? 2. Another characteristic of a multinational corporation is a broader market. Diba? Anong ibig sabihin nito? Di ba sabi nga natin, with the advent of having no trade barriers, they can invest everywhere. And multinational corporations with the capacity to invest everywhere creates more market for them. Diba? So more customers around the world, diba? But those customers means more opportunity also for you to see, diba? Foreign products or foreign services. So yun naman yung parang upside naman ng globalization. Kahit mababa ang sweldo nyo, diba? Kasi doon sila nag-i-invest. But that investment naman creates, diba, more market for you, and you can see also their products in your countries. Nagbubukas din ang ating bansa sa mga opportunities na yon. Okay? Next is tax cut. Of course, this is part of the deregulation policies where government should not intervene, di ba? In the pricing. They are offering also to attract foreign investment is to give them more tax breaks. Kung alam nyo lang dyan sa mga export processing zones natin, mga EPSA, what you call EPSA, you call the EPSA, Export Processing Zone Authority, o Export Processing Zone na under ng authority, first 3 years pa nag-invest ka dyan, tax-free ka. Because they are trying to attract investor, and for investor to develop their own business here, so they are giving them more tax breaks. Again, the purpose of that is to attract more foreign investment, but the hand side of it or the challenges of it is siyempre less taxes, more profit for them. So you can see always, class, that the bottom line of globalization is really the business aspect of it. Next, but of course, even though it offers low wages, but no one can argue that sometimes more investment, of course, creates more job. So there will always be a debate that is job creation better than higher wages, or it should be equal. Job creation should also result into a just wage. Class, it's up for us, or it's up for you to look into it, no? But one of the characteristics of a multinational, so they have the freedom to invest in other countries. But other countries compete with each other to offer low wages for the companies to invest in their countries, but it will not negate that investment of foreign companies also creates jobs. And jobs is a very, very important for the people, for people to have livelihood. Diba? So it is up to us to make a balance of creation of job, but also a decent job. And when you say about a decent job, it goes to say that it also has a decent wage. Hindi yung puro kita lang naman siyempre ang dapat binibigyan ng pansin. Okay? Next, of course, yun nga, no? Another attributes of a multinational corporation is the potential of abuse. Because though it creates more jobs, diba? It can be a ground for abuse where lots of people needs jobs, diba? And each workers are also competing with each other. So it can also result into each worker offering himself or herself for a low price. If it is happening on different nations, it can also happen even inside a country. If already there is an investment that was attracted for a cheap labor policy, even inside that country, there also exists no? Especially those countries with a very, very low percentage of jobs created, di ba? It creates also a competition between each and every workers of that countries. So each and everyone will offer a very cheap labor, di ba, of yourselves. No? And when lots of people needs jobs, di ba? International companies also can demand cheaper labor and lesser benefits for them, from them. So, may competition din sa hanay ng mga manggagawa sa loob mismo ng bansa at dito kahit na yung individual na mga manggagawa can compete with each other for a lower wage or benefit or hindi na lang magsasalita. It is very, very true, most especially in the construction industry, where carpenters and laborers or even different skills are being competed with each other, and they are getting the cheapest labor in the market as possible. Okay? Yan, threat to local business. How come there is a threat to local business when it comes to multinational corporations? Of course, when a multinational corporation invests on your country and that investment is the same as the business of some medium corporation on that country, well, we have said earlier that it breeds competition, and that competition breeds monopoly. So if the small or medium enterprises will face a competition from a very, very big multinational corporations, the score can be in favor of the big multinational corporation. So what will happen is local businesses will go bankrupt and will close. So that's another insights of a globalization. So it will result into local business will die, and what will proliferate is the domination of big businesses. As I was saying a while ago, our textile industry all collapses because of the advent of ready-to-wear dresses coming from abroad. Okay? Then, of course, that will happen again. It will goes to the same result of business will close. Of course, jobs will lose or loss of jobs. It will be a correlation effect, di ba? Pag nagsara negosyo, therefore tanggal sa trabaho ang mga taong nagtatrabaho sa negosyo na yon, and there will be a big number of the army of the unemployed, which why it is, big multinational corporations tends to abuse workers because of a very, very big number of the unemployed. They're offering themselves as cheap labor. It is better to have a cheap labor than to have no job at all. So, medyo meron talaga tayong predicament on that note. Okay? Ayan. So, I guess I will just start from there. Bukas we will continue our discussion on the impact of globalization on national government naman, meaning ano naman ang epekto nito sa gobyerno. Ayun na, pinag-usapan natin the effect ng globalization o ng mga big businesses sa mga takbo ng pera at negosyo at trabaho. Ano naman ang epekto nito sa gobyerno? So we will start the second half of our discussion tomorrow, and hopefully we can finish this in a 30 minutes. Then we will spend the next 1 hour discussing our topic number 4. So class, please make time to read para mas mapabilis ang discussion natin tomorrow. Okay, so any questions? So we will continue our discussion tomorrow at 9:30. And tama ba, no? 9, no? 9 to 10:30, and hopefully makapagsimula tayo on time. Okay? So, please class ha, take time to read do sa mga notes na pinorward ko na para mas mapabilis tayo bukas. Mas maganda nagkukwentuhan na lang tayo bukas at tanong-sagot na lang tayo para mas mapabilis tayo. Prepare your questions para mas mabilis tayo. Okay? Okay, class? So, we will start tomorrow the second part of our topic number 3 and we will go through topic number 4 also tomorrow. Okay? So, it's already 4 o'clock. So, may klase pa kayo and I also have a class. No? So, we will see again tomorrow at 9 o'clock, room 303 tayo. Okay? So, bye-bye class. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Ingat kayo.